Chapter 18, Chronic Illness, Disability, or End-of-Life Care for the Child and the Family. When you do have a child who has special needs or has some developmental delays, the best thing is to focus on what the child can do. So we want to have a developmental focus, looking at what this child's current developmental level is. What are they able to do? Not what they should be able to do at their age. So we talk about their abilities, which may be that they're able to smile and make a few sounds and interact socially, and that may be all it is, rather than saying this kid can't walk and talk and run and play. So focus on their abilities and focus on what developmental level they're at. And then also family-centered care. When you have a special needs kid in the hospital, you don't know what's normal for them. The parents do. So we really need to include parents because they are the experts on these kids. They're the only ones who know what normal is. And then trying to normalize these kids' lives is our goal. So trying to get them to do things that kids their age do in a way that they can. That may mean they need a wheelchair, but they still go to school with the other kids. And attending school and mainstreaming kids with special needs into the general ed classrooms is required by law. IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Act, and then the Americans with Disabilities. Or IDEA is educational, and then ADA is Americans with Disabilities. Both those say we have to provide these kids with an appropriate education, so in the least restrictive setting, so as normal as possible to what other kids their ages are doing. And here's a picture of a kid needs a wheelchair. He's learning to use his hands to make a toy go that's connected up to, a box that he's able to manipulate a little bit. Okay, the impact of a child's chronic illness or disability. There's more responsibilities on these families. Raising children, those of you who have kids, raising children is hard. Raising kids with special needs is harder. So there's more stress, more responsibility on those families. Kids with special needs get sick more, so they miss days from school, which means a parent is going to miss days from work. That's an added stress there because you may need to keep that job in order to keep the insurance and just to have enough money to live. So that's a problem. Increased behavioral and emotional problems. That extra stress, that builds up and adds up, and it does affect the whole family, and you'll see behavioral and emotional problems. Emotional strain, it's exhausting. And then I have some friends with special needs kids, and they say you kind of get used to it, and the status quo, you're used to it until you go to something where you see what other kids the same age are doing, and it hits you all over again that your child can't do that. So there's a constant emotional component to having a special needs child. It's kind of, you go through this grieving and loss repeatedly. Financial strains. These kids are expensive. They need special formulas. They need special equipment. They need special babysitters. Nothing is standard. Nothing is cheap. Siblings. It's a big stress on the siblings. Some will act out to get attention because the special needs child takes more time and the other kids want that time. Some will try and be the perfect sibling. You'll get just a whole range of different behaviors, but it's very hard on the siblings too. And then how are these kids accepted by the extended family? The immediate family kind of develops habits and patterns. What about the extended family? What about society? What about the neighborhood this child lives in? Those all are going to be impacted. So how do we assist family members in managing their feelings? Shock and denial are most people's first reaction. And, we need to just help parents get through that, not condemn them for having that. That's most people's first reaction to anything that's bad news. And then they kind of go through an adjustment phase where they may accept this, their child really does have this, whatever it is, but they blame themselves, or they feel guilty, or they're angry at everyone. And you may get a little bit of the brunt of that. Then they get to where they're a point of reintegration and acknowledgement. They are realistic now that, their child is never going to be able to do whatever the child's limitations are. And they kind of resume family life. They structure the things their family does in a way that the child can still go. So they quit going to the restaurant that has steps to get up to it because the kid's in a wheelchair, and they go to the restaurant that's ground level, and they find the park that has wheelchair access, and they develop a lifestyle where they can incorporate their child with special needs. They really need to establish a support system. We said this is emotionally hard, physically hard. It's just harder than raising a normal, healthy child, so they really need to develop a good support system. You may need to get the social worker involved at that point. So, children with special needs at Children's Hospital, Central California, half of hospital days are kids with chronic conditions. And you're going to have to kind of deal with your own emotions. Some of you, that won't be emotional at all. And some of you, that'll be very emotional. But realize part of pediatric nursing is handling kids with chronic illnesses, because those kids get sick more than other kids, and they get sicker when they do get sick. Children's Hospital has case managers who try and coordinate the care to prevent things from falling through the cracks. They'll do care conferences where they'll get all the different specialty doctors, the nurses, the family, everybody together to make sure everybody's got the same plan, the same goal for this child. The Charlie Mitchell Clinic, which it's at the hospital, but over in that building behind the big heart in the parking lot, you'll see that big heart. It's a pediatrician office clinic, but it's designed for kids with special needs, kids who have more than one specialist involved. So it's really good. It's right there at the hospital where the specialists can find each other and the subspecialists can get called quickly. That's really the best place for kids with special needs to be seen and to get their medical care. Child Life is a great resource. They're used to, again, half the hospital days are kids with chronic illnesses, so they're used to those sort of kids. They're used to finding the toys that are developmentally appropriate, not necessarily just looking at the child's age. And then California Children's Services. This is a government agency that'll help pay for things like wheelchairs and special equipment that kids need. So we want to identify the family needs. Certainly this family is going to need support at the time of diagnosis. If they are told for the first time their child has, cerebral palsy or, cancer or some other very frightening thing, they need some support right then. And, we need to be kind of prepared for any reaction from the family. Denial, guilt, anger. Most families are going to have all of those at different points, and they can fluctuate pretty quickly from one to the other. And then to support the family's coping methods and help them to cope. If they're a family that doesn't seem to be coping well, helping them find some healthier coping methods, or just encouraging them, have their pastor come, have their extended family come, whatever it is that's going to help them in coping. And we want to advocate for empowerment. We said one of our goals is to empower parents so that they feel like they can care for their child themselves. They feel comfortable, competent. Let's do that. Let's teach them what they need to know to take care of their child. Let's give them the supplies they need and let them be the advocate for their child. We advocate for them and they can advocate for their child. And education, especially if you're talking about a new diagnosis, they're going to need a lot of education about the disorder, what to expect, just what's going on with their child physically, the pathophysiology. And our goal is going to be to promote normal development as much as possible. And I like this picture. You can see this boy, he has some mobility issues, but we can get him a trike. He's not able to ride a two-wheeler like a kid his age is probably starting to, but we can get him a trike. And he can get around on his own. He can interact. He can do some of the other things that kids his age are learning to do because he now has this mobility. So promoting normal development in early childhood, that's going to look like, trust versus mistrust, doing things to promote that basic trust. Part of that's going to be trying to minimize separation from parents. That's what scares kids at that age. Helping parents to be there as much as they can, or filling in if they aren't, helping that child to trust. For school age, these are the busy doers. Industry and activity is what they are doing versus inferiority. So getting them drawing equipment and, like this boy, the trike, so he can get around and do things. Adolescents are developing independence. So let's encourage that. Let's encourage children to do as much of their self-care as they can. They're going to have, if we're talking about a chronic condition, they're going to have this. So helping them to learn how to get in and out of their wheelchair on their own, or how to use special cups and spoons and forks so that they can feed themselves. Let's encourage all of that. Functional aids, that's anything that helps them function. They have so much available nowadays. They have, cups where kids who don't have good dexterity can kind of slip their hand through a strap and can drink from a cup and can use their silverware like that. They have some that'll kind of always stay, a spoon where it'll always stay with the spoon down. It's kind of on a swivel, so no matter how the hand moves, the spoon stays the way it should so that it doesn't spill. They have lots of good aids out there. We may need a physical therapist or occupational therapist to really know what those aids are and which ones will work best for that given child. Discipline. This is an issue with kids with chronic illnesses. Families a lot of times don't want to discipline this child. He's already got this, special need. Things are harder for him already. And sometimes these kids don't get disciplined. They don't have boundaries set, and they need those boundaries. So as much as we can do to help the parents in developing appropriate boundaries, being good at disciplining fairly and consistently, let's do that by modeling or making behavioral contracts with kids, whatever we need to do like that. And then school phobia, a kid who's left school and had a car accident and now they're in a wheelchair or something along those lines. If they've been gone a while, it's really scary to go back. They already feel different, something has changed. The longer they're out, the harder it is to go back. So the sooner we can get them back, the better it is.